here we go.
Here we go. And slate in
Scene.
and let's mark it.
Scene TF, 1A, take 1.
So Scott, it's very nice to see you. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule.
Good to see you, Titan. Good to see your crew as well.
Yeah. We got a lot of good things going on over here. We're machining for some great companies. We're going through a lot of material, and I've been having some problems. And we've talked in the past, and I've been following you, and it's just been awesome. I tell my guys about all the great things that you guys are doing for American manufacturing, but I thought it would be really great to get them in front of you and actually hear a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, well, Titan, appreciate the opportunity. Appreciate all that you guys are doing for American manufacturing. You're showing the folks how to do it out there. So I don't have to tell you how important your jobs are. I mean, they support families. You provide strength to the economy. You service the military, and our country wouldn't be what it is without you and the hundreds of thousands of people around the country that do the work that you're doing. But we're facing some tough times. I mean, manufacturing's about a third of it what it used to be in terms of the number of people working in it. And sometimes our government has been more of a hindrance than a help. Facing a lot of, I don't have to tell you, you're facing a lot of foreign competition.
Absolutely.
From China and other countries. And they don't necessarily play by the same rules as you do. I mean, you work hard every day, and so do they, but they have, a lot of those companies are supported by the government. I mean, you have steel firms over there that are owned by the Chinese government. So they don't have, they're looking to put people to work. They're not looking to stay in business like you are, Titan.
Absolutely. You know, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about the steel industry, you know. But you just said something that kind of tugged on my heart right there, and you talked about the military, and we do parts for the military, and it is such an important part of this country. It's why we have our freedom, right? So I actually was reading that a lot of our parts and for our military are actually done overseas. And if we ever got into a major problem, other countries could literally shut us down. We would almost be dead in the water, right? Because for us to retool, remake everything, it would take such an extreme amount of time. Where would we be if we got into a problem like that?
Yeah, we'd be in big trouble. And I'll do a 10-second history lesson here. Alexander Hamilton, way back in 1791, said, we should be able to make stuff for our own military. And that's what's going to make us strong and secure. And I think for a couple hundred years, that's the way we were. But we're living in this day and age of outsourcing now. And it's tough. I mean, a lot of titanium comes from Russia. We should have domestic sources for that. Absolutely. And we certainly don't want to find ourselves in a position of depending on some parts that we can only find from China. I mean, if you look at your smartphones or stuff like that, almost all of that is from overseas. And our military needs to know that we have their backs. And to me, that means we need a strong defense industrial base so that we can make sure that we're supplying with our war fighters with the American-made equipment that they need, and they know they'll always have it, whether or not another country agrees or disagrees with what we're trying to do. It's a big problem, Titan, and we're trying to take it on. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think there's also a problem because we're innovators, and our quality is at such an unbelievable rate that by taking these products from other countries and putting our servicemen in harm's way with, you know, questionable equipment, I mean, we're not doing them any justice, right?
Yeah, just within the last couple of years, an investigation uncovered that there were millions of counterfeit parts in key military systems like the Joint Strike Fighter and tanks. And that's a scary thing. I mean, when you're a guy in the field and you got to fix that piece of equipment, you want to know that the part that you have is genuine, is authentic, is going to work every time. And to me, Titan, that means made in America.
That is made in America. Nobody does it better than us, right? I know you touched on something too. I want to say that people don't really understand because other countries don't have the laws put in place that we do, right? A lot of laws that restrict us, but actually keep our country safe from us doing bad things, right? Different companies doing bad things. There's a lot of corruption in other countries, right? That actually people are making the products. They shouldn't even be making the products because they didn't even know how, but because they're related to the guy who runs the embassy or however, they get the job. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, well, you have. I mean, one thing that we know, Titan, and you know this because you have to meet certain quality standards not only for your customers but also for state and federal regulations as well. And some people complain about those, but at the end of the day, we know we're getting safe products. And the challenge is. In a country like China or some others where they don't have the regimes and the oversight, you end up with quality problems. And you see that in everything from bridges to pet food and toothpaste. And so as a consumer, I want to know that the product that I'm getting is wholesome, is safe, is quality, is going to last a long time. And to me, that means American made. And even if it means paying just a few cents more, it's going to be worth it because that product's going to last longer. It's going to need fewer repairs, and it's going to do the job that it's intended to do.
Absolutely. And by purchasing that product, we're putting our own people to work, right? I could talk all day long about everything because I get so passionate about my country and about manufacturing, you know. But let's get to what I actually called you about, and that is the steel industry. All right, we're buying so much steel, so much aluminum, but I just got a huge job. It's tens of thousands of pounds of steel. And I'm talking to all these guys, and they're trying to just sell me this foreign stuff. And it seems like there's so much of it right now, and it is cheap. But I got to tell you, as a manufacturer for our armed services, for great companies, when I machine that stuff, I can tell by running a tool into it, there's a lot of porosity, there's a lot of problems with it. I hate manufacturing it. The time that it takes me to manufacture actually takes the cost right out of it because it turns out to be more expensive in the end, you know? So now I got all this steel and it's all cheap, but it's like I know that there's a lot of great steel plants here in California. All right, so I found a place that I'm going to be getting it from, but it was really frustrating going through and then just seeing your website. There's 500,000 steel workers with their jobs on the line. I mean, that just doesn't seem right to me.
It doesn't seem right, Titan. It doesn't have to be that way. I mean, in California, there's probably 50,000 jobs that are connected to the steel industry in some way because you think about not only the workers in the plants, but the trucks that are driving back and forth. And the janitors who clean the facilities. And those are good paychecks. And those are paychecks that when they disappear, you're not going to find another job like that, really. So if I were the government, I would want to do everything I could to make sure that our steel workers in California and around the country had the ability to make that steel. But it's simply not the case. We face a lot of competition from overseas. And again, I will say this, and you know this, Titan, on a level playing field, your shop and those steel workers can compete with anyone, and they can win those contracts, and they can win business, and they can put people to work. But the playing field is tipped against our steel industry. You have a lot of firms in China that get subsidies from the Chinese government. They don't meet the same environmental regulations. In fact, more than a quarter of all the pollution that you get in California, the particulate matter, comes from China, comes from industries in China, which is just shocking to me.
It's coming over the ocean to us.
Yeah, it is shocking. And I first heard that statistic about 5 years ago, and I didn't believe it. So I actually went to the data source, and it is the case that all over the West Coast, a lot of the particulate matter pollution is coming all the way across the ocean. So it's a global problem. And what we need to do is stand up and fight back and say, look, we want access to the Chinese market. We have nothing against the Chinese people. All we want is a level playing field so that we have the same opportunity to win those contracts as Chinese firms do. But when half of those Chinese steel companies are owned by its government, it's hard to do that. I mean, there's no company in the United States that's owned by the U.S. government. Y'all are in the private sector. You're competing against a lot of other firms out there, not only in California, but around the world. But you depend on the government to say, hey, we need a level playing field on this trade policy so that we can have access and win more of these contracts and put people to work. That's what we're facing today.
Absolutely. And I think it kind of equates to if I was explaining it to somebody, if I bid on a job and I was a little bit over where I needed to be. It's like President Obama coming in and saying, hey, I'm going to give you 40 cents on the dollar, so drop your price and therefore put your bid in, which of course, if I was getting all this money, it would make sense to me. So that's pretty much what they're doing over there, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. They have a lot of policies through direct government payments to those firms, through not enforcing the environmental laws, to doing something called manipulating their currency that gives those firms a big advantage. And that's when, look, you want the government in the United States just to do its job and kind of stay out of your way. But this is one case where where we've got to rely on them, no matter who they are, to stand up and fight back and to say, we need that level playing field. We don't want to see 1/3 more of our manufacturing jobs disappear over the next decade like we saw in the last one. We want to grow it. And Titan, I know you want to grow your firm too, and you're going to do everything that you can to make that possible. And I know your crew is going to work hard to make that possible too. You just need the government to do its job.
Well, you know, I might upset some people, but you got to hear me out one second. I think a lot of these other countries like China, they're smart in a way because they understand, they learn from us, and they understand that manufacturing is a base to build a country on. And without it, where you can't build, you can't be successful, you can't build your middle class. So they're cheating and they're doing it a certain way, but they did learn from us and take everything that we did to build this great nation, and now they're doing it and we are forgetting about it. Could you say that's right?
Yeah, I think that that's exactly right. I talked about Alexander Hamilton back in 1791 saying that manufacturing had to be important to our economy. But here we are today, and in a lot of ways, all these other countries will do anything they can to fight for manufacturing jobs because they realize it's important to building their middle class, it's important to their economy, it's important to their security. We seem to be the only country that wants to give these jobs away and say, you know, don't work with your hands. Get a 4-year college degree. Get in front of a computer terminal and go for it. Look, there's a lot of people who want to do that, but there's got to be a place in our economy for manufacturing. It's what made this country great, and it's what's going to keep us strong. And I firmly believe that. And unless we rediscover that, we could, as you suggest, Titan, find ourselves in big problems someday.
You know, I saw something that really, I was speechless. I saw somebody come on to the news and talk about China and how many millionaires and how many people and what manufacturing has done for them, and that these guys have so much money now that they need to come over to the U.S. and be tourists, and we need to just switch gears from manufacturing to serve them, and that there's a huge industry in service that's going up. But I'm thinking to myself, you know, that's like a $10 to $20, $25 an hour tips. Manufacturing is a $20 to $40 an hour or even more, right? And that you can build a family on. That doesn't make sense to me.
You're right, Titan. And I tell you, you ask any mayor out there what kind of economic development they want, and they'll take a factory in an instant because they know if they get a shop like yours to locate, they'll get that restaurant to come because your workers will have paychecks to spend at the restaurant, at the grocery store, and all around. And it doesn't work the other way around. If you get a restaurant to come to town, it doesn't mean like Titan's going to locate there, right? It works the other way. And it's because you are providing the bread and butter of the American economy. And that's why we got to fight for these manufacturing jobs. And that's what we're hoping to get the politicians in Washington, D.C. to do.
Absolutely. You know, every time somebody steps up and says that they're going to go to China and talk about currency manipulation and all this, everybody speaks trade war, right? Where would China be without the U.S.? We build everything for them. The money that comes from us, if we all of a sudden went into a trade war and they stopped taking our products and stuff or stopped making our products, they would be in serious trouble. They absolutely need us, right?
Yeah, they'd have a revolution if they did that because their manufacturing is all about putting people to work so they're not out in the streets protesting, all right? That's kind of how they get along. I think that people don't realize the leverage we have. Even though we're only 5% of the world's population, we still have the world's richest consumer market. I mean, California on its own is the 10th largest economy in the world, so that's saying something.
Absolutely.
And so China couldn't do it without us. And you know, as a businessman, you have a balance sheet, and you have to make more money than you spend. Otherwise, you're going to go out of business, right?
Absolutely.
But we have a problem with China where for every dollar worth of goods we're sending over to China, China's sending about $5 worth of goods back here. And that's what you call a trade deficit. And someone's got to pay that. And unfortunately, we've paid a lot of that with our jobs. And those are jobs that are really hard to get back.
Absolutely. Let's talk about taxes real quick. When we send a product over that we manufacture, like say to Germany or China or someplace, they put a huge tax on that and actually make that product more expensive, right? But if they send something to us, we don't put that same tax on it. So we're not making that, and that's a lot of money we could be making, right, as the United States of America.
Yeah, Titan, there are 154 countries, so that's almost anybody who makes anything, that has what they call a value-added tax. And that's a tax on our exports going to that country, as you just said. And in some cases, it's like 17, 18, 20%. It can be pretty high. We don't have that at all. And we have very low tariffs. We're basically what you call a free trade country, where we collect very few duties on goods that are coming from overseas. So everybody loves to send products to our market because it's almost free to get into. But it's really hard for guys like you to export your products because you have to figure in that value-added tax. And that's just another way that we gave all of that up during trade negotiations, thinking that we were going to do a big favor for these other countries. And then all of a sudden, we fast forward to 2014, and we're like, well, wait, they're not doing any favors for us. What happened here? They've kind of played us for the sucker. So you're right. We need a level playing field, and it should be the same. If you're exporting, then if we're getting some imports into this economy, so guys like you can successfully compete. You can sell your products here and around the world. It makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely, and everybody's talking about, you know, how much of a deficit we're in and all this different things. Other countries, I mean, that tax that they put on our products, that's a lot of money coming into that country, right? So all this stuff coming over here, I mean, just filling up our stores and stuff with even a half. What is the tax like going into Germany? Was it like 19 cents on a dollar or something? Or am I wrong on that?
No, you're right. The value-added tax, it depends on the product, but it can be 17, 18, 19%. And you think about it, you are funding like their health care for their workers.
Exactly.
So not only are you paying for health care for your workers, but you're paying health care for German workers when you're selling them products. And it is hey, that system works great for Germany, good for them. I'm glad that they figured it out, but we got to figure out something that works for us.
Yeah, it's just, it's mind-boggling. I don't get how our leaders don't get it, you know, but I know that you're in Washington, you're speaking for the people, you're doing tremendous things, your whole office, and everybody's just working really hard. I know you're always writing to the president, and I see you on the news and stuff, so I just want to commend you for all that you're doing for this great country.
Well, Titan, right back to you. I mean, it's makers like you and everybody in your shop that makes our country great, and that's why we fight every day out there, because we believe not only in manufacturing, but we believe that it's good for the country as a whole. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it, and that's what we say. Keep it made in America, man.
Yeah. So one last thing, and I'll keep saying this, but one last thing is, one thing that I know as a manufacturer, and it frustrates me when I hear lawmakers and people talking about manufacturing, and they do a tour, like you said, but they don't really know the nuts and bolts, right? I run these very sophisticated CNC machines, robotic machines, deal with robotics, deal with the AutoCAD software from Autodesk, Haas machines, they're built in California. I deal with all these things, and they're getting faster and faster and faster. And one reason that I've been successful is because of my aggressiveness in approaching those machines. And when I go into other shops, A lot of shops, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people, you know, our industry is so closed up. It's so secret. There's so many NDAs. Nobody shares information, and nobody really understands American manufacturing because you have to learn it on your own, right? So when I'm looking at guys and how they run their shops, they're literally running at 10 to 30% of what the machine's capabilities are. So what we're doing is trying to educate people to run those machines and that software, look at all the variables in manufacturing and become an expert in all of them to increase productivity. And then we're actually, even without the help from our government, on a lot of products, we're able to compete right now. And then if they just gave us a little bit of help and put some laws in place, we'd be in an awesome place, you know? Do you hear that much about manufacturing and how the technology is and how it's through the roof, and we just need our skilled workers to kind of really realize how to push these machines?
Yeah, you know, I wish everybody in America would get themselves into a shop like yours so they could see what high-tech manufacturing is like today, because it's not your grandfather's assembly line, right?
Exactly.
We've come a long way since the Model T, but that's where some people's minds are. You know, that's what it is. And so both your workforce, which is incredibly skilled, and the machines you have, which are incredibly high-tech, we have a lot of advantages in this country. We have access to good natural resources. We have access to low-cost energy. We have a rich consumer market right here. We have good logistics, although we got to kind of rebuild some of those bridges, I think.
Absolutely.
And highways. And so we should be doing a lot better. And you're right, there's some policies that are holding us back. But I think you've hit the secret sauce there, Titan, that if you have high-tech manufacturing and you invest in your people as well, that you're going to succeed and you're going to win, and that we're trying as hard as we can to make that possible, not only for you, but for all those other dreamers out there who want to do the same thing.
Absolutely. You can do it. And that's the whole thing. It is the truth. We can compete. We can overcome what we're going through. We just need some laws in place. We need people to open their eyes to see the truth that Americans are still the greatest workers on this planet. And we just need to move forward into a great American future. Our kids deserve it.
You got it. We were the arsenal of democracy during World War II. You know, our manufacturing industry helped to win that war by turning on a dime and making products. And as we head into the 21st century, I think that we can have a resurgence in manufacturing. And I want to see you and others be able to grow your businesses, put more people to work, sell more products. And if we rediscover what manufacturing means to this country, I think we can make it happen.
Absolutely. Technology is through the roof. We just have to embrace it, and we need to move forward. And thanks to guys like you and the Alliance for American Manufacturing, I just thank you for all that you're doing, Scott, and thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet. Great to talk to you and your crew today, Titan. It's been a real pleasure.
All right. I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
You got it.
All right. Take care, Scott.
Thanks, man. Bye.
Ready?
Hello, Scott. Thank you very much for talking to us again today.
Hey, Titan. Good to see you. Good to see your crew.
Yeah. So you've been doing amazing things with the steel industry, and anything happen with that, or are we going in the right direction, or where are we at?
We think we're getting there. You know, we had some issues on some steel pipe that we actually got the government to step up and say to the Chinese and to the Korean companies that you got to trade fairly, and that should save some jobs. So, you know, every once in a while we get some good news, and I think we saw one of those things happen recently. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What can people do to help in this cause?
Well, I tell you, and this is just a simple matter that people don't believe, but when we're spending our tax dollars to rebuild our country, whether it's our water pipes, because a lot of them are more than 100 years old, or military equipment, or our bridges, we believe that money should be reinvested in the American economy, and that it should be American workers, American factories that are producing that iron, that steel, the other metals, and all those manufactured goods, that you should have the first shot at that. That's called Buy America policies. And believe it or not, some of our spending doesn't do that. We outsource those things to China, or to Europe, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense when you can be investing that money right here at home.
Well, that kind of brings me to why I called you today to talk. But I just want to say, if it's our tax dollars and we're spending it and our government's giving it to foreign countries, right? And they think they might be saving just a little bit of money. It's not really true, right? Because if those tax dollars were spent here, then they would go right into our paychecks, right? We would pay taxes on it. The government would get money back, right? It's almost like a rebate, right? Believing in our country. And then the money would actually go into our schools, our gas stations, our coffee shops, and everything. So how can giving any money to any other country be a good thing?
Well, some people, I don't, but some people think that it's like charity, that if you do them a favor, that they'll do you a favor down the road. But hey, you know what? We're taxpayers. I think it's a good thing to make sure that if we're building new bridges in this country, that they're being fabricated in the United States, the steel is coming from the United States, or if we're supplying our troops, that comes from the U.S. And there are some laws on the books, Titan. They're called Buy America laws, but there's a lot of loopholes in them. And so we're telling Congress to close those loopholes and make sure that all those tax dollars stay here. And we'll grow the economy. And as you pointed out, you made the argument better than anyone I've heard, that that recirculates in the economy in a way that has this positive ripple effect that you want to get. And you just aren't going to get it if you outsource it to China or to Korea or for any other country.
Yeah, I really don't get it all, and the whole thing with China and stuff. You just talked about favors, and I know that the media and people, if they took this short clip, they could twist it. But if we wanted to ask China for a favor, maybe we could get their big aircraft carriers that we're paying for, their huge military that we're paying for. Maybe they can protect us as we send our people home without no work,
Yeah, it's a real question, and I often wonder that too, our military, how do we think that it helps our country be more secure to pile up such a debt to China that, as you said, Titan, enables them to fund a big military program, and they may actually be competing with us in the Pacific Ocean. I don't ever want to be enemies with China or any other country. But we can't count on them for always being friends, right?
Absolutely.
And so it just doesn't make sense that, look, I understand why they're doing it, but there's no reason why we have to help them to do that.
I was being a little sarcastic with that. It just blows my mind, I got a phone going. Go ahead.
It does make you wonder, yeah, but you might be wiretapped by the Chinese military right now. You never know.
Maybe the IRS will come and audit me right now. I'm just saying. So
that was another joke, yeah.
Yeah, I got to be careful here. So looking at spending money and taxpayers' money, going overseas, doing all that, all right? The real reason that I really wanted my crew to be in on this talk was I've been going across that Bay Bridge, in Northern California, all right? Ever since I moved to California 25 years ago, I've been going over that bridge. I got here right after it collapsed way back in the late 80s or early 90s, right? And I love that city. I love the bridges. I love everything. But now, how can I put it nicely? My skin crawls when I go over that bridge and I understand that our workers didn't get work, that China got work. All the money that could have came to our people and our manufacturing sector and our, economy went to another country. And now the steel, I hear we're having all kinds of problems. And there's just all this stuff that came up. And everybody was patting themselves on the back for doing such a good job by saving a little bit of money when actually it's costing us way more money.
Yeah, this is a case study on how not to build a bridge, Titan. And I know you drive in the Bay Area, and so do I. And the traffic is terrible, and you want to make sure that you have structures that are going to stand up and withstand earthquakes, which is the reason why the original Bay Bridge, had a deck collapse back in 1989. I'll never forget watching that on TV. There was the World Series. It was just stunning. And so ever since that time, they've been trying to get the money to rebuild this bridge and figure it out. And so finally, about 10 years ago, the state of California made some plans to do it. And they decided to save a little money that they would skirt federal Buy America laws, because if they got money from the feds to do it, they would have had to use American steel, and they would take those state tax dollars and strike a deal with a firm in China that had never built a bridge before, but said, hey, we're going to save you $250 million. And that sounded like a great deal to the government at the time. But obviously it didn't turn out that way. And so now we have a bridge that's open, the traffic's going across, but there are questions about the welds, there are questions about cracks in the structure. And not only that, Titan, but this bridge was delayed and it ended up costing, instead of saving $250 million, this thing ended up costing about $400 million more than they had originally estimated it to be. $400 million. And to top it off, there were firms right there on the West Coast that could have done this, up and down the West Coast, that could have put probably 3,500 people to work building this bridge. It's what I call a blown opportunity, and I hope no one ever tries to do it again.
Yeah, we have to really learn from this mistake. You just talked about the bridge collapsing, and we wanted to rebuild it. I mean, that's almost like a sick joke that we have to go to another country and have them rebuild it. We're not fixing anything because we're not doing it with American quality, right? If we want to protect our people and our workers and take care of our economy, then we should be doing it because we're the best at it, right?
You got it. They had the Caltrans, which is the state transportation agency, which was overseeing the project. At one point in time, they sent a guy to China so often to check on the bridge building that he racked up 400,000 miles in frequent flyer miles from going back and forth, which is unbelievable. And look, it's a shorter drive from the Bay Bridge, either up or down the coast, and that an American firm is going to do it right. I was just shocked when I first heard about this, that it was being outsourced to China. And then I asked around, and I actually found some fabricators and some steel makers who said, yeah, we bid for this, and we could have done it. We would have had to build a new facility, but we could have gotten it done. But Caltrans says, well, we don't want to wait for you. And we can get it done cheaper in China. And look, this is just a lesson in how not to do it, that even if you're chasing that low price, you're going to get what you pay for. You're going to get a cheap product that could be inferior. And it's kind of scary to think what could happen.
I think that I read an article when it was being built, or maybe a little bit after it was being built, and I'm thinking, and I could be wrong, but I think it was about $7.4 billion that it cost initially, and we had bid it at about 7.8. And that also, I said it before, but that doesn't make sense because even at 7.8, we put it back into our workers, we pay taxes, we put it into our economy and stuff. So it's really just a straight up lose-lose all the way around, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be this way. Across the coast from you in New York, the Tappan Zee Bridge, which is a famous bridge over the Hudson River, is actually being rebuilt, and they're using American steel for it.
Awesome.
They said, we're going to do this the right way. We're going to make sure the workers are paid well. We're going to make sure we're getting quality product, and we're going to reinvest in their own economy. And I'm looking forward to driving over that bridge. I have to say, I have family in the Bay Area. Like you, whenever I cross that bridge, it makes my blood boil a little bit to know that work could have gone to American workers, but also all the money that was wasted and all the challenges that we have in it. And it says to me that, we need a lot smarter policies. We have some dumb policies at the state and at the federal level that make it hard for you and for your workers to compete with all of that. It doesn't take a genius to know that a firm overseas across an ocean that had never built a bridge before is not probably going to deliver it in the condition that you want it. So That's why we say buy American, get it right the first time, and we're all going to be better off.
Absolutely, Scott. I could not agree with you more. Hey, a couple of my guys, a couple of my crew, they wanted to ask you a couple questions. Would that be okay?
You bet. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Travis, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, how you doing, Scott? So I had a question. What can we do, not just as American manufacturers, but American citizens, American consumers? Is there anything we can do to, as you said earlier, sort of help level the playing field and maybe stem this exodus of manufacturing jobs?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we're all obviously taxpayers, we're all consumers, a lot of us are voters, and in each of those roles, there's something that we can do to support manufacturing, I think. I mean, as consumers, look at the label, and a lot of people try to say, you got to do 100% Buy American. And look, that's something that you can try for. It'll be very frustrating. Just do a little more than you're doing now, and then you'll like it, and you'll want to do more, and you'll want to do more. It's just kind of like exercise. Once you get on the bike, you don't want to get off, but don't start with unlimited aspirations. Start slowly and move forward. Now, as taxpayers and voters, there's a lot that we can do. We have a lot of loopholes that we can close in those Buy America laws to make sure that we keep the tax dollars here at home. And we can make sure to say to any of those politicians, no matter what party they are, that, hey, we want you to come to our factory. We want you to say you love Made in America, but there's some policy that we need to make better. We need to make sure that we have good workforce training, we have good innovation. We need to make sure that we have a level playing field on trade and on taxes, and that we don't want to make errors like we do with the Bay Bridge. And if you do that, we're gonna, because of all the ingenuity, because of all the talent that we have, we're gonna have a manufacturing renaissance in this country. Y'all are gonna be able to grow your business, and we're gonna see a rebirth. And I'm excited about that. I think it's quite possible.
Absolutely. We have to make it happen. The American public has to make it happen, and we need to demand it. Everybody says, like, oh, it's too late and it's all gone. But if we vote for the right people and we demand change and actually educate ourselves, we can bring change, right?
You got it. And you got to tell your friends and neighbors that too, because you're in manufacturing. So this is your livelihood, and you get it. But the person who works in the grocery store, they might not immediately understand unless they realize that all those paychecks coming in there are manufacturing paychecks. Then they want to support the industry. That's how we've been able to do it, a little at a time, to tell people, even if they're not in manufacturing, why it matters to America and to the economy. And I tell you what, we've run into a whole lot of people, and they may have a lot of political differences. Believe me, they do, on a lot of different issues. When it comes to Made in America, they're right there. It's something that unifies this country, and that has me pretty excited.
Absolutely. So Travis, did that answer your question?
Yes, it
Are
did.
You good?
Thank you very much. Yes.
Cool. Was it, who else had one?
I got a question.
Okay. Zach.
Hey, Scott. You were talking about opening up the Chinese market when we were talking about the steel industry. Does that mean that our steel manufacturers can't sell their steel in China?
Yeah, it's very hard for any overseas firm to sell into China right now. I mean, you can get raw commodities in there, but that's basically fueling their own industrial economy. So like, coal and iron ore and things like that, they welcome. Finished products like you all are making, that's a lot harder to get in. It's not to say that it can't be done, but there's a lot of what I would call very mercantilist or protectionist policies that the Chinese government has to make sure that they're making the stuff right there in China. And I'm a guy who believes in something called reciprocity. That is, if you want access to our market, you give us access to your market, and we'll call it even. And if we approach it like that, I think there'll be a lot more opportunities for firms across the country to do business in China. But again, it takes our government to negotiate a deal like that, and so far they haven't.
Absolutely. I actually heard, so just to touch base a little bit on that, and just to make it in a way that people really get it. So when we go and manufacture and have our products manufactured in China, and machines need to be purchased and different things. They have policies in place. Basically what you're saying is that it has to be Chinese stuff. They have to like go and buy all the Chinese stuff before they can come over and buy American or other products, right? So they're actually, I mean, that's kind of smart on their part, but we don't do the same thing, right?
Yeah, we usually don't, and certainly not in the private sector for our consumers. Titan, they have what they call national champions, and they try to look out for them. And if you're a firm that wants to do business in China, they want to make you partner with the Chinese firm, who will then get access to all your technology and your intellectual property, which is very valuable to you. And so that's not really the way you're supposed to do business, and we don't make deals like that in the United States of America. So again, it's about reciprocity. We'll do for you what you're willing to do for us. And then if we're on that basis, I'm confident that we can have a whole lot of people who can do business in China. Until that time, it's going to be very difficult because their government controls so much of their economy.
That is awesome. That's awesome. So Zach, was that good?
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Cool. Hey, Brandon, you got a question, Brandon?
Well, Mr. Paul, my question is in regards to what is being done currently in Congress or our government to turn things around for manufacturing.
That's a good question. There's a whole lot of people who aren't happy with Congress right now, and so there's a lot of reason to be skeptical about their ability to do anything. But there's a couple of things that they could and should be doing right now. One is helping to rebuild America. I mean, we need to be able to get around in this country, and that means better bridges, better roads, better highways. That's good for manufacturing. It makes it easier for you all to get to work and for your goods to get to market. So that's something that they can and should be doing. Another is to reform the tax code so that they're rewarding companies like yours that are keeping good jobs here and that are employing workers here and aren't shipping those jobs overseas. Another thing that we can be doing is just to make sure that we're rebuilding that system of vocational education. I mean, hopefully all of you had a chance to go to shop class when you were in high school. So many of those classes have disappeared because of all the cutbacks. So both at the high school and the community college level, we got to make sure that we have programs for young people who want to work with their hands and with their minds, that they have that opportunity. I know this is an agenda that a lot of people want to see. We just have to make sure that our leaders, no matter if they're Democrats, Republicans, or independents, get and understand that. And that's one of the messages we try to carry every day. And I know that you all work hard every day, too, to help make that possible.
Cool. Brandon, is that good?
Yeah, that's fun. Thanks, Mr. Paul. Appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah, you bet.
I got to say something about the education part. We have a lot of trade schools. We have a lot of, teachers and stuff, but they're not getting paid enough. It's a lot, usually retired teachers that aren't really in it and understanding the new technology. And to compete and have the future that we want, we need to have the elite younger generation getting into those teaching spots to teach this new technology, because that's how we're going to move forward, and we need to invest in it.
Yeah, Titan, you were right, because if you talk to a technical college instructor who last was on some sort of a machine 25 years ago, the technology and how much has changed over that course of time, and you can't be teaching that old method that folks aren't using anymore. Same goes for the software, the design software that you're using. It's constantly updated. And so I think one of the challenges is that for so long, basically from 1998 to about 2009, there was so little hiring in manufacturing that all of these programs kind of took a steep cutback in funding. Now that firms are out there, and guys like yourself, Titan, are out there trying to rebuild this manufacturing economy, we need to make sure that you have those young, aggressive, smart, and well-trained on the latest techniques, the latest software, those kinds of teachers applying that for the kids who want to get into manufacturing, for the veterans who coming home and want those jobs, and for the workers that may have had a manufacturing job in another type of manufacturing, but may find them a good opportunity for themselves in a shop like yours. I think that if we open up more of those opportunities, we'll be able to get even more people involved in these great careers.
Yeah, you were talking about those cutbacks, and we're almost done here, but you were talking about those cutbacks, and when I started my business, I had to invest money into my rent, into my machines, into my tooling, my employees. I had to take huge chances without getting a return right at the beginning, right? So what I think is that the United States needs to make that same investment in its people, because it's like, if we're making all those cutbacks, we need to just switch gears, and then we need to put the money invest into our people and the right technology, and then give our country a head start, like a jump start, and then you're gonna be getting all those taxes, and then changing the tax code as far as what's coming into this country, what's going out, all of this, and then all of a sudden, that deficit would just be shrinking. I mean, is that just a simple way of looking at it, or do I have something here?
You're right. I mean, you as a small manufacturer have to defy the odds to succeed right now, because you have to find that line of credit. You gotta find those contracts. You gotta balance your books every week. You gotta meet payroll. You have to pay attention to all the rules and regulations. And if we were smart, and look, every career has dignity, but we're not gonna ever be a strong economy if we just have people flipping burgers. It's true. We're just not gonna be a strong economy. We're only gonna be a strong economy if we have more people like you who are in the business, and more workers like those you have around the table doing it. And it's a down payment. It is a small investment that can be made that can generate enormous return, which is why mayors, governors, they all want to go to that ribbon cutting to get that factory in their town, because they're excited. They know what it means to them. We just got to get more of those folks excited about it and get those policies into place. And I think that we can, rebuild the economy and have a better future for our next generation in the future if we do that.
Absolutely. We have the know-how, we have the technology, we have the people, we have the experience, and it's in our nature. The quality is in our nature, and we just need our government to invest in us and give us that opportunity, and then the government and the whole country will flourish.
You got it. And I look, everybody would love to be a millionaire, right? And so I have nothing against the rich or trying to get rich. I think that's part of the American dream. But here's the truth. If you give a millionaire a tax break, it doesn't mean he's going to buy another automobile, right? But if you bring another worker into the middle class through a manufacturing job, he or she is going to buy an automobile. And that's how you strengthen the economy. And investing in the small firms like yours, investing in the workers, that's what made this country strong, our middle class. And that's what y'all are about. And it's why I'm excited to be with you and to see the work that you're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, does anybody else have any questions? Are we good? Well, Scott, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. I feel so blessed. All my crew, I'm glad they got to talk to you and meet you. And I look forward to talking to you again.
Look forward to it. Keep on doing what you're doing. You're making America great.
American Bill. Yeah. All right. Thanks,
Thank
Scott.
you.
Take care. Okay.